Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. I'm your host, the #1 Vikings fan extraordinaire, Adam Boyer. And finally back with a commentary video. Recently I've been working on the Taylor Robbins series. Playlist to that linked right here if you want to check that out. But for today, we are looking at a very intriguing question. Should the Washington Commanders trade or sign DeAndre Hopkins this offseason, depending on whether the Cardinals want to trade him or if they just cut him? Should they sign him? And yeah, not really anything more in the web by way of announcements. Subscribe if you're new, and if you do enjoy, we're trying to hit 500 here pretty soon, then on to 1,000 and onward. So become part of the Vikings fam today. Okay, let's get into it. So the first logical place to look is, what is the Washington Commanders cap space looking like? Per Commanders Wire, the Commanders will have approximately $13 million right now in cap space as we head into the offseason, you know, once the playoffs and everything are over, which is not great at all. It's less than we had last year. I believe the Giants had the most in the NFC East with like $54 million or something. So, yeah, we got some catching up to do. That's not a lot of wiggle room to work with. And I think the elephant in the room is probably, what about Carson Wentz? He's eating up our cap. And this is true, but yay, we have an out in Carson Wentz's contract this offseason, the Commanders do, which would allow them to cut Wentz and recoup all $26 million that Wentz is supposed to earn this year and have zero dead cap. And to me, this is an absolute no-brainer. They need cap space badly, and Wentz played like hot garbage this year. So, to me, it's a no-brainer. You cut him with that out, and you have zero dead cap, and you get $26 million just like that. We're up to about $39-40 million or so in cap space. So, yeah, that would be the first logical place to start to get him at all, whether it be through trade or a free agent signing. Unless they did some weird restructuring and everything of his contract, they would have to free up a lot of cap space. So, as for DeAndre Hopkins, he is signed through 2024 with Arizona. It's a big contract, 2 years, $54.5 million. And yeah, that is a lot of money. They're paying, what is that, like 27 or so million a year to pay a guy that really is definitely aging. He's on the latter end of his career. Maybe not of his career, but of his prime for sure. I think he might still be in his prime. Maybe, but it's certainly on the tail end of it. He has struggled to stay healthy a little bit. We'll get more to that in a little bit. But, yeah, one very important note as to DeAndre Hopkins' contract is that he does have a no-trade clause. So if he does not want to leave Glendale, they cannot make him leave Glendale unless they cut him. They couldn't trade him away. And to me, it seems very unlikely that they would cut him. I do believe there's actually an out for the Cardinals as well in his contract, so they could just cut him this offseason. But with him already under contract, and with him still being probably a top 5 receiver in this league, I don't know why you do that instead of just trading him and trying to get other teams to kind of eat most of his contract. But again, he has to want to be traded. He might not want to be, but I would imagine he probably does, as Arizona kind of entering a rebuilding stage. They're going to have a new GM, new head coach, kind of tearing it down and restarting. Kyler Murray is, if he even stays in Glendale, might be the only franchise building block there. In 2022, Hopkins played just 9 games, of course. He was out for the first almost half of the season with that suspension. But when he came back, he was good, especially to start when he came back. 64 receptions, 717 yards, it's 11.2 yards a catch, and 3 touchdowns. His chemistry with Murray is just on point. When Murray was still healthy, he was clicking. And I think if Murray hadn't gone down, you could see his production really start to dip near the end of the season. If Murray hadn't gone down and he had stayed healthy all year, Hopkins might have gotten close to 1,000 yards, even though he only played 9 games, which is crazy. But yeah, he had really good chemistry with Murray and was producing really well, even with that really bad Cardinals team. I mean, their defense was bad, their special teams wasn't even great, their offensive line was bad. There was not a lot to like about the Cardinals this year. He did, unsurprisingly, struggle with the likes of David Blau and somewhat with Colt McCoy, but, that is pretty much to be expected. I'm not sure who wouldn't struggle with David Blau throwing the ball, and, of course, Colt McCoy, used to be a starter. He's been relegated to the backup role his entire career for a reason. But, and of course, I do still have a kind of soft spot for Colt McCoy in my heart, being the Commanders' backup for so many years, or Redskins at the time. So, yeah, it is a dip in production toward the end of the year, but he could have had a really good season, even with missing almost half the season if Murray had stayed healthy the whole year. When Hopkins is healthy, he would be an excellent matchup with Terry McLaurin. We've thought for years we need a guy like Cam Sims, a big physical guy to come in and complement McLaurin on the other side of the field. You have McLaurin, speedy, quick, great hands over on one side of the field, and on the other side of the field, a big physical receiver, a Devontae Adams or DeAndre Hopkins type. Or as I mentioned, Cam Sims, who I really think, especially since we extended him this offseason, last offseason, he needs to be getting more playing time, but that's a matter for another day. So yeah, I think Hopkins would be excellent lined up opposite of McLaurin. I don't know how you'd stop that, no matter who our quarterback is. If it's Howell, that would certainly give him quite the skill positions to build around. Robinson and Gibson in the backfield, Hopkins, Dotson, McLaurin, maybe Curtis Samuel if he's still here. At tight end, Logan Thomas and John Bates, they could produce, although they're probably a little bit better in the blocking game, specifically Bates. And then the O-line still, they kind of took a lot of flack, especially toward the beginning part of last year, or this season, but they're pretty decent. You got Leno at left guard, or left tackle, Norwell at left guard. At center, we'll have Chase Roulier back and healthy. He played almost none of this year. Right guard, you had Trey Turner, and I believe it was Wes Schweitzer kind of swapping in and out. And right tackle, you had Cosme when he was healthy, and when not him, it was Cornelius Lucas, who has proved to be a capable fill-in player. So yeah, I think adding Hopkins would just bring another element to this offense. And if we got even just a competent quarterback, even if it was Heineke, I think we could be a top 15, top 10 offense in 2023. Of course, that's looking quite a bit ahead. So, to answer the question, would it be a good trade to trade for DeAndre Hopkins? And I think the answer is yes, it would. But, how much would we have to give up for him? It would be a good trade, but only if at a decent price. At this point in his career, is DeAndre Hopkins, does he warrant a first-round pick? Well, here's my proposed trade I have. The Commanders take on DeAndre Hopkins' entire contract, and they get Hopkins, of course. They send the Cardinals a 2023 fourth-round pick, so this year's draft, fourth-round pick. And then next year, the Cardinals get another fourth-round pick and a second-round pick next year. And that is my proposed trade. I think that would be enough, especially if we take on all of Hopkins' contract, clears up cap space for the Cardinals. And, yeah, that gives them 2 fourth-round picks to work with, which isn't too far down the draft, and a valuable second-round pick next year. Now, of course, the Commanders would have to clear up, as I said before, a lot of cap space, and that's when we start to look at guys like Wentz, who needs to be cut from the team instantly, and Curtis Samuel actually has the third biggest cap hit on the team going into the season. He might be expendable, and probably would be, especially if they trade for Hopkins, as he has a $13 million cap hit heading into this season. But let me know what you all think. Should we trade for DeAndre Hopkins? Go in the comments. Let me know. I think it'd be pretty exciting, to say the very least. Also, is Jeff Bezos going to buy the team? Is Snyder about to sell? Let's hope so. Hashtag sell the team. As always, folks, I am the Vikings fan. I don't really know what else to say. Subscribe if you enjoy, and like as well. Be very much appreciated. Helps get the videos out to more people, and the Vikings fan continues to grow. As always, I'm the Vikings fan. I'm out of here. See y'all later. Thanks for watching.